Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien Morin-van.
Hello everybody, my name is Dorien Morin-van and we are live just a few minutes early just because we can. We're going to talk about marketing strategies this morning. So if you are a business owner, somebody who might be stuck in their social media or is looking to maybe kickstart something or upgrade something, or if you're a marketer and you've been tasked with creating some strategies, content strategy, marketing strategy, social media strategy. This is the podcast, the live show for you. So before I introduce you to today's guest, who is an expert, I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor, who is Social Insider. They are the intuitive dashboard for social media analytics, reporting, and competitors analysis for brands and agencies. If you need data, you need Social Insider. Go check them out. Without much further ado, I want to welcome you this morning to my guest, Melanie Boylan. She's joining us from Ireland, which is very exciting. Melanie, you and I met at Social Media Marketing World earlier this year, right?
Yeah, we did. It was a fantastic event.
Yeah, it was so fun. So you and I both know a lot about strategy, so this should be a fun session. But before we get started and we ask the first question, I just want everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching, to know who you are. Melanie Boylan is a social media advocate and mentor who has branched out into various forms of communication since she founded Stomp Social Media Training. In her role as tech and event journalist with Irish Tech News, she has niched in space, science, STEM, sustainability, startups, and social media. Those are all S's. I just love the alliteration here. You'll find Melanie's written podcast content and podcast content on Startup Mindset, whatswhat.ie, Women's Inspire Network, and many other publications. In 2020, Melanie and her good friend Esther started the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. I have had a lot of guests on lately who have their own podcast, and I love it because podcast hosts usually makes amazing guests. So if you're watching this live with us, let us know where you're joining us from and make sure you stay here. Melanie, let's talk about marketing strategies. Who needs one and when do you need it?
Well, for a start, literally everybody could really do with a marketing strategy. Not everybody wants to apply one straight away. And I do understand that there's a huge amount of overwhelm when people first start. But as time goes on, you realize without a marketing strategy, you're just not going to see any real results. You're always going to see results because you've got enthusiasm and passion and interest, and you're a novelty and all that sort of thing. But once that's gone, you kind of need to muster up some real attention a different way. And that's why marketing strategy is so vital.
Okay. And in what part of the business journey would it be great to hire somebody to create a strategy for you?
Well, that is actually very dependent. It depends on who you're asking. I personally think I would have done really well with a virtual assistant in the first year because I was trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Personally.
Mm-hmm.
But then the others, they really do need to, make their own mistakes right from the beginning, and maybe year 2. If you haven't really got somebody by year 2, you're not going to make any real money by year 3.
Okay. All right. That's a good measure, I guess. So when we were in the green room earlier this morning, we were talking about a framework, right? A marketing strategy framework. Can you tell those people that are listening or watching, what is the framework that you use? And we're going to assume that those of you who are watching and listening are sort of familiar with a lot of the bigger idea of what a strategy does. So we're not going to explain what a marketing strategy does, but what is the framework that you use when you work with your clients, Melanie?
Well, on the basis that you who are listening and watching today already understand customer avatars, customer journey, yada, yada, yada. What we're more worried about now is GSD, Golf Sierra Delta. Okay, just in case you might think it's an F. So GSD. And that would be for goals, SWOT, and diary. And I know there's some of you really going, SWOT, seriously? How old are you? And the reason why I think SWOT's so important is because there's a part of you that you never really work on unless you see what it is that you're missing. I do a SWOT every 6 months. I did one in June. Okay, so June and January. And that helps me follow up on people. It helps me upskill myself if I need it, for instance. Earlier on this year, as I'm sure you're all aware, or your listeners are aware, Google Analytics changed and they gave us a good year's notice. And I had a pretty good understanding of Universal Analytics, but I knew that GA4 was sort of melting my mind slightly. And so that went on to my SWOT in January, and I ended up finding somebody who could train me in it. So I paid for their time, did some workbooks and some Zoom calls with them, and I've come out the other side. But without that planning and that project management, which is ultimately what a marketing strategy is, I don't think it would have ever been done. It would have been lost among all the other millions of little jobs that certainly a sole trader or even a small business would struggle to get done.
All right. I love that idea. So it's basically a plan so you assure that you do the things that need to get done. Can you explain to those who are watching, listening, what SWOT is? There's some people who might know and others might not. And I just do want a quick shout out. I see Hope is here live with us, and then Harvey is here as well. So just want to make sure we have some live viewers, listeners. So let's dive into that SWOT a little bit. We don't have to go too deep, but what does it stand for and how does it help you? Because I'm hearing what you just said about, January and June. That makes so much sense. It's the bigger view, right? That's what we want with a strategy. It's instead of just being busy with the busy work right here this week or this month, you're looking at the bigger picture.
Well, that's the only way an actual strategy will work. And whether it's a marketing or a business or a content strategy, they all work the same way. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what that's helping you do is look internally and externally to what's going to be impacting or likely to impact your business. And as part of a SWOT, I would also tell people to go through a seasonality chart as well. And for new businesses, you'd have to speculate how that would work. But for a lot of businesses that are, like we're particularly targeting today, Doreen, you've already got a year or two, maybe even more, of some idea of what your audience is like, or where you're currently at least. And my suggestion to you is to do a seasonality chart. Now, obviously, outside and inside influences are going to be impacting what's happening, what interest there is. Maybe you've launched a new product, or you've got a new member of staff, or maybe you've lost a member of staff, or you've moved location. I mean, that makes a huge difference to your business as well. So bearing in all this in mind, I think the only way to really fully appreciate is if you can pontificate as to what your audience might be doing, what they did do in the past, and what they're likely to do if you give them the right material or the right incentive. And that helps you build a seasonality chart. So we've moved straight to the middle of the GSD here, but obviously it works with goals first and foremost. And again, we were talking before we started today about goals and where people struggle with goals. Goals is a horrible thing to say to a business owner. It really is, as a social media manager, because they're like, well, I just want to make money and I want, more presence online. And yeah, but why?
Right, right. Well, actually, we were talking in the green room. I recently did a poll on LinkedIn where I asked all my audience to see who they thought should set the goals. One
Yeah.
of the reasons I asked the question is because I've been contributing to LinkedIn collaborative articles, and it's AI generated, which we have somebody watching that's talking about AI and wants to know about Chat GPT. So we can maybe go in there in just a second. But these AI generated articles, every single one starts with, this is targeted at marketers, start with your goal. And my question is, who sets the goals? A marketing strategy, you're most likely directly working with the C-suite. But as a social media strategist, often you're hired by a marketing team and you don't necessarily have access to the C-suite. But who should set the goals? How is it all related? Because if your goal is, well, I just want more likes, does that translate to a business goal of more sales, right? So what is your take on goal setting? Who should set the goals? How should we set them? Who should we talk to? Because I think this is really an important piece of this strategy, that if you set the wrong goals, you're not going to get to the finish line, right? You're not going to be successful. So Melanie, what's your take on that?
This, in my opinion, believe it or not, starts from basics again in your mission and your vision statement. The whole basis of your business is set up to resolve a pain point. Okay. And if you don't have a mission and vision statement, get one. Because if you don't know where the heck you're going, you don't know where your audience wants to go. And the whole point of a mission and vision statement is it helps you understand what you're aiming for. The whole point of goals is project management, even down to, let's say you're a builder or a painter.
Sure.
And you've already got one van, but you want a second van, from a new member of staff. So you've got the new member of staff, but there's still two in the one van. You want a second van. So you have to make a project management for, let's set aside some money. Let's get some quotes to get insurance. Let's get some quotes to get the paint wraparound and that sort of stuff. So this is all project management. But if you don't know why you want that van and why you want to have it wrapped in the first place, then you can't justify it financially or literally in part of your mission, if you like. So I know this may sound terribly basic, but I think sometimes we're trying, especially as marketers, we're all trying to find clever ways to stand out. But we don't have to. We just need to speak sense. And we need to make it as simple. We just need to make it as simple and as sincere and as helpful as possible. I'd love to make loads of money, Doreen. I'd love to be world famous. I'd love to travel the world. I'd love to do all of that. But that's what I want. Okay? And the minute I start talking about me in my business, nobody cares. But if I translate as much information that's useful and helpful and sincere, then more people will talk about me, more people will want to hear from me. And all I've ever wanted to do is empower the business owner to manage their own social media.
I love what you just said, right? So if you're watching, if you're listening, this is so good. We are really the service providers. And yes, in order to get more business, sometimes we feel like we have to have this personal brand and we have to be seen, we have to do all those things. But if you start with the idea of providing as much value, solving the pain points of your ideal clients, starting with the mission and the vision statement, as Melanie just said. Melanie, I did not realize you and I were so aligned. I, on my blog, have several, what is a mission statement? What is a vision statement? Because as I was working with clients, I realized a lot of them don't have that. And as you were talking, if there's anybody out there who's a runner, give me a thumbs up. I'm a marathon runner. And if I sign up for a marathon, I need to do all the work to get there, but that's my strategy, right? My strategy is to sign up. I know where I want to go. That's my goal. but then I have to do all the work in between. If I skip a bunch of runs or I just skip a whole week of running, I'm never going to get there. But at the same time, if I say I want to run a marathon and just start running every day, but don't have a sign up, I'm never going to get to the goal because I don't know when I'm going to run the marathon. So why would I push hard? Because I could do the marathon in 5 years. So so I love that we have this strategy will give us these goals, a deadline, project management, ways to get there and break it up into smaller pieces. So we're very much aligned on all of that. And so we're talking about building a marketing strategy. You had GSD, and I love that you actually said get shit done, which you were nice. You didn't
I
mention
didn't say that live.
You did not. I did that. But that's what it is, right? You just get it done. So we talked about the goals and the SWOT. So what is the D, the diary? And I think for those who are in the U.S. diary, we more think of a place like a personal journal, but you mean more of what? A diary to you is like a daily planner, a to-do list?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it would be for a daily planner for me. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do daily planners. Some people like the literal book. And I do have one.
Oh.
And I love this marketing planner that I've got here. Oh my God, I'm so happy with it. It's the best planner in the world. And it's, for some people, it's something tangible, but the downside to that is I work from 2 locations. I have a home office and an office, and 9 times out of 10 I'll forget to bring it with me. So what I do is I would advocate to go for one of the free diaries or calendars, if you like. And I use Google Calendar, which as I'm sure your listeners are aware, that's accessible on your phone as well as on your laptop and on your tablet and everywhere else. And it's free. It doesn't cost you a cent. So by using that, and if somebody says to you, I would like to follow up with you in a week's time, don't just leave it at that. Diary it.
Yes.
Have I heard back from this person?
Right. So you're saying you have to document everything. Yes. And document it as you have to have a system in place, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't have an official one, but I have a notebook that I have next to my desk, and everything. When I have meetings, I have my notebook, I make notes, and then as soon as the meeting is over, I transfer everything electronically. I used to have everything only in the office, and I love my sticky notes. I don't know if you work with these, but the problem was I had a coach who said, well, what are you going to do when you travel? You're going to bring all your sticky notes that are on the wall? So I also went to a more online system for all of this, because you need to have an online system in case you're traveling and you have 2 offices, and I sometimes travel, and you need to be able to access your diary, your planner online. So let's talk a little bit more about marketing strategy for those who are listening, for those who are watching. So now you've got your GSD, your goals, your SWOT, your diary. How do you work a plan, Melanie? And who do you need? Do you need just yourself? Do you need a partner? Do you need an accountability partner? Do you need a data analyst? How do you work a marketing strategy plan once you have it?
Yeah, no, this is actually a really good question. Now, I am a sole trader, and I know a large amount of, certainly the people that listen to my podcast with Esther would be sole traders as well. And so the way we've managed to make this work for Brand Stomp is project management again. So I use HubSpot. I've got the paid for plan, not the God spot of HubSpot, but the low paid one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I use that. And that helps me understand. So, because I do have the intention in the not too distant future of getting a member of staff. So that means that they can come in and look at any time and see what the previous history was with that particular client. And it also helps me better understand, without reams of paper, how many clients I've had per week, per month, per quarter, per year.
Right.
So I'm trying to get on top of my analytics better. I also use Asana. which is, and there's lots of different project management tools out there, Monday.com and others. But I use Asana, again, just the free version for this one. And on there, I've got my website designer, my accountant, my virtual assistant, and me. And anybody I work with, anytime I collaborate with somebody, I add them onto my Asana. And that way we can keep each other accountable, and they assign work to me as much as I assign work back to them. And then on top of that, I also use, just trying to think of all the names of them now. So I use Post Planner as well. This is another great tool, and a paid for tool. It's a little bit on the pricey side, I won't lie. But I tend to do the annual payment for that one. It makes it a little bit cheaper. And that helps me find other people's content. Because as you know, Doreen, you shouldn't always be posting about yourself. Because let's face it, none of us are that interesting. And, between that and just sort of WhatsApp and Messenger and that sort of stuff, staying in touch with people, I pretty much manifest all of my workload through these platforms. And over the years, including other sort of scheduling platforms, you've got Meta Business Suite, and now LinkedIn does scheduling there as well. So where possible, I try to use the native way of doing things. And of course, X has now forced us to use just native, because it doesn't seem to work for anybody else now. So it's trying to get your head around all of this, and then trying to share the workload where I can. And with my virtual assistant, she's just amazing. And she's been a core part of my team for like 3 years now. So it's understanding your limitations. It's understanding, I had a fairly significant loss to my family last year, and I was kind of not present mentally, physically, emotionally, in any shape or form for a month. And my VA, absolute lifesaver. So understanding that life happens and having all these things in place, and most vitally, and you did mention it, and I'm leaving it till last, the accountability system. I have actually 2 accountability buddies. I need a lot of accountability, apparently. But these 2 accountability buddies have been an absolute life-changing thing for me. I've had accountability buddies for about 5 years. I've had these 2, one for 6 months and another one for nearly 18 months now. And it's given me somebody to bounce ideas off with. It's somebody who's, everybody gets imposter syndrome occasionally, even I'm sure you do as well, Doreen. And so it's really nice to have somebody there to say, look, you can do this. You are doing well. Don't give up. And we all do it. 10 years in, I'm still doing it.
Right.
So
no, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. So once you have a strategy, start implementing it, have accountability partners. I'm hearing you say, make sure that you have systems in place. So if you know your long range goals, and you with your team can set the shorter goals and get moving through it. That's really what we're looking for, right? You just got to have movement forward to a finish line, whether that's the next time you're going to look at it. For you, probably be January, and look at your marketing strategy again for the next 6 months, and you just move forward. If you're listening, if you're watching, it's very important to have specific goals. I think we didn't really talk about that, but it's easy to say when I work with somebody, Melanie, and I'm sure you've heard this. I'm like, what's your goal? You actually mentioned that. And it's like, well, I just want more sales. So what I have is actually a list of very specific goals I use as an example to clients when I work with them. I said, well, would you like more book sales? Would you like more people in your restaurant? Would you like to hire 4 more people? Would you like to increase your overhead? Not increase your overhead, decrease your overhead. Would you like, I get them very specific, because those are all goals that can be obtained with a business strategy and then a marketing strategy and then a social media strategy, but you've got to work your way down the line. I do want to, before we wrap this up, I do want to address, we have Harvey, who was in the comments earlier. How does AI jump into marketing strategies? Actually, a really great way to look at that, right? You might have a marketing strategy in January that you weren't planning to revisit until June, but AI came onto the scene so fast in February and March. How do you adjust? And I think this is a good way to talk about it. How do you adjust for new things come in? And then threads came in, right? For new opportunities, new business opportunities, new work opportunities coming your way when you're working that marketing strategy, Melanie?
Well, as social media marketers, we are constantly having to update our knowledge every single month. And there is the chance, I haven't particularly niched down. I don't know if you have, Doreen. I'm not known as a Facebook person or a Threads person or anything like that. So I've never really niched. And when Threads came out and, all these AI, ChatGPT and stuff like that, I didn't put myself out there immediately as an expert. Mostly because I didn't want to. Mostly because I figured, well, there's plenty of other people out there that already claim they are and are saying they're doing it. I'm just going to plod away and get better at it. And, I don't think you have to embrace absolutely everything immediately. There are people who are launching their businesses today who've never done a live in their life. Okay? You do not need to embrace all of these changes immediately. However, when it comes to AI, this is something you are going to have to embrace in order to keep your business alive, I'd say, in the next 18 months, 2 years. And I'm a bit of a purist myself, as you mentioned earlier on. I'm a journalist. I don't use ChatGPT for blogging, and I never will. But I do use it for ideas. So I put in topics and I look up trending stuff and I get ideas. And I use it for recipes, and I use it for, when should I plant in, what should I plant in September and October and that sort of thing. So it's not like I don't use it. But I think everybody's so worried about trying to be proficient at so many different things these days, Doreen, frankly doing a bad job of all of them.
Yeah, I'll applaud to that. That is so true, right? So we all want to jump on the newest thing. And what I hear you say is be aware, keep your finger on the pulse of what's coming, but keep your strategy the same. You might want to change some of your tactics. If something like AI came on the scene, and, as marketers, I've said this and I've heard people say this over and over. If you're worried about your job, that AI is going to replace you. It's not, but people who use AI could replace you. And I love that you said 18 months, because I'm thinking 18 months to 2 years as well. If you by then are not proficient in using AI for the things that Melanie said, I use the same thing, ideas, give me 5 different ways to say this one same thing. I actually use it a lot to upgrade what I am writing personally, because English is my second language. So I'll say, hey,
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And business owners who want to use it for blogging, by all means do. It's just, I'm a journalist. I'm meant to use my own vocabulary.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I use it to correct my writing, to maybe use my previous writing, make a different style, ideas, research. And just as a caveat, of course, if you're using ChatGPT for research, make sure you verify everything, because it makes up things, which is amazing. But we as marketers can now be faster, better, quicker with the AI tools that are out there, including images, writing,
Canva.
Canva.
That's all AI.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. So now let's wrap it up, Melanie.
Yes.
You have a podcast. Where can people find you, your podcast, how can they get in touch with you if they're in Europe? Let's make sure that they know to connect with you. Where are you most active on social?
I guess the way, well, actually on a few places, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, now YouTube Shorts. I'm having a real laugh there. So I'm kind of everywhere, but I suppose your best bet is to reach me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'll be under Melanie Boylan on LinkedIn.
Okay. And then your website is stomp.ie.
Yeah. So www.stomp.ie, STOMP.
Okay, excellent. Well, and your podcast, is it a weekly podcast?
It is every Monday morning it goes out. It's called the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast.
Wonderful. Well, make sure that if you're listening or watching this today to go check out Melanie, connect with her on LinkedIn, go check out all the wonderful things she's doing. There's lots of training going on. So make sure that you connect with her. And Hope says, thank you. It was a great discussion. Hope, I always love seeing you in the comments. Thank you so much. Melanie, I will talk to you soon. I will be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.